Welcome to the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. This is the show that shares information and inspiration to help you break free from self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and disempowering patterns and break through to create the thriving, successful business you dream of and deserve. I'm your host, Winnie Anderson. I interview amazing entrepreneurs who've overcome tremendous challenges to create success on their terms, and experts who share practical information and insight that can help you get past your blocks and move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity. The show is available in both video and audio formats on a variety of platforms, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, in the Google Play Store, and on YouTube, as well as on my website at winnieanderson.com. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll share the show with others, and I hope you'll decide to join my community. You can become a fan of the show at winnieanderson.com/fans. When you do, you'll get episodes delivered right to your inbox along with information, tips, and resources to help you consistently move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity so you position and pre-sell yourself as the unique solution provider you are so you can ultimately profit from your expertise. Like you, I'm sure, my life is crazy busy. I try to fit in time for self-care, and I'm always on the lookout for simple ways to help me manage myself better so I can continue to excel in work and in life. And it seems that, when you start thinking about something, you suddenly notice it more and more. Like when you decide to buy a new car and suddenly you see that car everywhere. Well, the brain has a specific thing to focus on, so it starts focusing, and that's when it starts to notice. That's what's been happening with me and the topic of meditation. I first started investigating meditation when I was in a particularly stressful point in my life. My husband and I were living 500 miles apart. I was in full-blown recovery, dealing with issues from being an adult survivor of abuse, and we had family drama going on at the same time. I had heard that meditation could do great things and that people in all professions used it, and they believed it had made a huge difference for them. So I tried it, and I got nothing from it. But like I said, as I started to think about it recently and read more about it, I thought, maybe it's time to investigate this again. So I knew I needed to go to an expert, and I figured you might be interested in it too. So I invited Brodie Welch back for another interview and was thrilled when she said yes. Brodie is a licensed acupuncturist. She's a board-certified herbalist and a Chinese medicine expert and a self-care strategist. She's the founder of Life in Balance Acupuncture in Corvallis, Oregon, and she has been treating patients there since 2003. In addition to her clinical practice, Brodie shares her expertise to help caring, conscious women take care of themselves through innovative Learn from Anywhere courses and coaching programs on stress management, digestive health, the body-mind connection, including movement-oriented meditation, and Chinese medicine. She's the creator and host of a podcast called A Healthy Curiosity. That show explores what it takes to be well in a busy world. So listen in as Brodie explains what meditation is, different styles of meditation, the benefits of meditation, and she'll share some tips for getting started. As always, listen all the way to the end where I'll share your reflection exercise and action step for this episode. All right, so welcome, Brodie. I am so excited to have you back. You are my first repeat guest for this show.
Well, it's such an honor. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let's just go ahead and dive right in here. I reached out because I've been seeing a heck of a lot of stuff lately, which must be a reason, right, about meditation. And I'm very concerned about my own health, let alone the people that I come into contact with. And I think in terms of total health. So physical, spiritual, and mental health. And so when I started to see meditation coming up, I thought, all right, I think maybe I should address this with a show. So that's how we got to this point and how you got here. So let's dive right in and just what in the Sam Hill are people talking about when they even say meditation?
Well, I could turn that question right back around and ask you, what do you think they're talking about?
Well, asking me that now probably gets a better answer than asking me that maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
hmm
To me, meditation has always been this combination of mystery and mysticism.
hmm
So some of that is like just a little repellent to me. And the reason why is because I have a foundation in faith. So I think I'm woo. I'm not woo woo. So I'm always a little nervous, like I'll cross the line or something into something that is just a little bit too out there for me. So when I think of meditation, and again, child of the 70s here, I think of the Maharishi and and all these people with the beads and all this stuff. So I'm sure that makes me out to be a whack job, but so clear it up for us. What is meditation?
Sure. Well, I think that there really are a lot of myths, and meditation does conjure up a lot of different images for people. And is it the same thing as a particular spiritual path? Can it be a totally secular undertaking? And it's like, those are, I mean, I think that really the bottom line is that meditation is something that has been a part of spiritual traditions all across the globe from as far back as time, probably, because essentially, I think at its simplest, meditation is taking the attention that's going to the outside world and turning it into intention, turning it back onto our inner world, and really uniting the consciousness, really stepping out of the flow of the stuff of the mind to be the observer, and really, I think it could be done for reasons of health. It can be done for reasons of emotional and mental health and happiness, and it can also be done for spiritual evolution and insight. And I think it really depends on that your intention matters. The kind of meditation that you're practicing matters. For what goals you want to achieve, and also just the fact that there are so many different types of meditation out there that it's really not a one-size-fits-all thing. But I think a lot of what's out there that people call meditation is in fact mental manipulation and not actually meditation at all. And we can totally get into how I perceive the different forms of meditation. My background it infuses a lot of different forms of meditation because I was raised without a particular path, and I was a spiritual seeker from the get-go, and it was kind of like raised in a household that really was not supportive of that. Meditation is one of those things that I can't imagine my life without, and that I got kind of interested in at an early age because I was so depressed and angsty and needed a way to it needed something. And so I was very much coming at it originally from a place of wanting to connect with some aspect of my life that felt more real than sensations that would come and go in my body and thoughts that would come and go in my mind.
Okay. Wow. I had no idea. I really hadn't stopped to think about that there are these different styles, just like there are different styles of everything, different styles of thinking and approach. So okay, that's really awesome. So then I guess my next question, which was going to be, well, what exactly is it, is kind of hard to say then if there are these different strategies. So why don't you talk a little bit then about yourself and,
Sure.
and the foundation that you tend to come from, because I think you get it. So
well, yeah, there's and I can bring in a lot of different pieces here. So because the journey has not been static.
Okay.
So when I was first introduced to meditation, it was with somebody like what you're imagining, right? Sort of like my half sisters had a guru from India who would initiate you into this particular meditation path and give you a mantra, and it was this very it was about enlightenment. It was about here. I'm the guide. I've been here before. I can guide you through the inner planes. And, here's this incredible spiritual gift of the ability to take these charged words that you repeat silently to yourself while having an internal focus in a particular part of your body, and with a particular opening up to the emotion of love and devotion. And that so abiding in this state and repeating a mantra would lead to spiritual evolution. And I realized actually that wasn't really my path. Like, I didn't feel that heart opening love for a guru the way that a lot of people did. That's called bhakti yoga, right? This sort of dedication or devotional form of yoga. I went to college, and then I got hooked up with this Jewish meditation chanting group, which was a form of meditating through sound, was taking these wordless chants and using sound as something to focus on, and these simple melodies as a way of deepening into a state of just union with your sound, with the sound. And so it was the kind of thing where, like, people would chant together in these, again, vowel sounds. No words were being exchanged. There was nothing specific to Judaism about it at all. I'm not Jewish. I don't identify that way. But this idea of that this is what the mystics of this particular path would do. And I would find myself utterly tranced out and transported by using the chant, that each time the chant is repeated, each time the melody is repeated, I would deepen into this state of getting away from my mind, giving my mind something to focus on, getting out of my head, and finding myself in this utter state of bliss. And I was like, this is amazing. Then went on to, left college, wasn't connected with this particular group anymore, found meditation on my yoga mat, right? The idea that yoga is this union of body and mind. And really the whole point of yoga is to allow you to sit still long enough to actually meditate. But that wasn't necessarily working for me either, in the sense that it's really easy for the ego to get involved. It's really easy for it to be about, like, paying attention to the physical form of the posture and letting the traps of ego kind of get involved there. But this idea that rather than trying to transcend the mind and to, like, rise above it, in Chinese medicine and in Qigong, we have this idea that the body is actually a gateway to meditation. And that so the practice of Qigong, which is the union of breath and movement with your intention, it can be a lot for me and a lot of people with, like, very active, busy minds, a way of bringing the intention to the 10,000 things and making the attention one thing, or in this case, sort of the union between that breath and body. So rather than trying to get beyond what the physical form is doing, it's about being able to unite that intention and use it as a pathway in, which is kind of more along the lines of like the tantric yoga path, like that, which doesn't have to do with sex. It just has more to do with the imminence of the experience of our divinity, as opposed to the fact that it's in an afterlife, or that it's something that the body keeps us from. So those are all kind of those are some pieces of like my particular path. And the fact that there are and then, of course, mindfulness meditation is a word that gets kicked around. And so when I'm working with people in clinic, I'm clearly, like, I tend to be like, people are there for health and happiness, and they're not necessarily there to talk about spirituality. So it becomes this very pragmatic thing. And I start with people basically just deciding to pick your path. Are we going to do a more open-ended awareness kind of a cultivation practice, or are we going to do a directed and focus kind of a practice? Because there's benefits to both.
Okay. So you're really looking at you, the individual who is considering meditation.
Yep.
You're looking at the problems that you have and the concerns, and then which style of meditation is going to best address the concerns that you have. Is that a fair statement?
Kind of. I think it can even get simpler than that, because it makes that I feel like the way you phrased it implies that there's, like, a whole lot to consider. And I think that in general, there is, like, in its simplest form, meditation is basically relax and pay attention.
Okay.
Right? So which can seem kind of like a paradox, right? Because if we relax our focus too much, we float away from our awareness.
Right.
And if we pay attention, well, what are we paying attention to? right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so ideally you're paying attention to attention itself. And so really if we're thinking about our, for example, attuning to, like, if you can close your eyes, you can bring your attention inward, you can turn on your internal faculties of
Hmm.
awareness and attune to the subtle. It's really helpful to have a place to focus that focus. And
Right.
so a lot of times the breath is used because the breath is something that's always with us. You can't
Right.
breathe for the past or the future. It's like just always
Right.
here. So it's always something that we have the potential to focus on. And so it can be that really stepping outside the stream of thought to give yourself a focus. Now, other forms of focus, I mentioned mantra, I mentioned sound. You could also meditate on, you could stare at a candle flame or a pine cone. You could have a visual focus that you bring
Right.
your awareness back to. You could have an awareness in your body, like in the Qigong tradition, we often think about lower dantian, or that place in our low abdomen that's set to be like our center.
Okay.
The third eye is another popular place to kind of hone the focus to concentrate awareness at a particular point. So those would be examples of really like practicing that have a focal point. But if somebody's like focused, hyper focused in their daily life, perhaps what they need is not necessarily more focus. Right? Like perhaps that kind of a person, it might be medicine to have a more open-ended practice, which could simply be about relaxing and noticing.
Okay.
And like kind of like whenever a thought comes up, you just practice letting go of the thought and going back to being.
And right. Okay. Okay. All right. That makes sense to me to a degree. So then the benefits of doing this
Yes.
are unique, I'm going to guess then, to the individual. But can you talk about some of the benefits that
Of
people tend
course.
to experience?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's sort of that open-ended practice of letting go helps you let go in your life. It helps you let go there's the in Buddhism, or one Buddhist teacher has popularized the phrase suffering equals pain times resistance, which I really like. So that basically that as you resist something, you magnify how painful it is, and allowing that, just practicing letting go and allowing means that you're not suffering. Right? Like you've let go of your attachment to an outcome. You've let go of how you think things
Right.
need to be, of how you think things need to go. You even let go of who you think you are. And that opens up the possibilities of who you could be. Because so many times, like if we think about getting stressed out, let's look at what that is. Like when we stress out, we are concerned, like we're very attached to a particular outcome. Oh my God, if I don't
Yes.
make this deadline, something
Right.
is terrible is going to happen.
Right.
That there's a sense of danger. There's a sense of impending doom if you don't get whatever it is done, or
Right.
if the outcome isn't what you want. But really, so often the threats to our ego, it's just that. It's a threat to our sense of who we are as
Right.
opposed to our actual survival. So when we meditate, we open ourselves up to realizing that we're not what we do, that we can detach from stress in general. We can also increase the pause between trigger and response, because when we meditate, we practice not scratching every itch, right? We practice not responding to thoughts in a habitual way. So if a thought arises and you're like, "Ooh, I've got to send that email," you don't jump up from your cushion and go send that email. The practice is stay. It's okay. We're refocusing, breath, right?
Right.
Refocusing, pine cone, refocusing, emotion of love, or, like whatever it is
Hmm.
that you're coming back to. And so I'd say like and this isn't just me saying this, this is scientific research that shows that people who meditate are less likely to feel reactive, less
Hmm.
likely to feel
Hmm.
impulsive. It really,
Right.
actually, in a matter of 8 weeks, and there's one study that I am familiar with, says that in 8 weeks, 20 minutes of mindfulness-based meditation is enough to grow the prefrontal cortex and to shrink the amygdala in terms of neural density, like
Wow.
increasing the amount of neuro activation in the brain. So, because what wires together fires together, and
Right.
we actually build our brain like we build our body with repetition. More reps equals more muscles, more energy going to that system. So the prefrontal cortex is the area that has to do with concentration. It has to do with equanimity, decision making. So when we grow that, we're more resilient. We're more emotionally, we have a stronger platform. We're less likely to be pushed off by the waves of life. We are more ability to be caring and empathetic, we're more likely to stick to our goals because we can override that impulse to go run off and do something else.
Right.
We increase our focus and our ability to feel calm. We also decrease the natural age-related decline in the brain. It actually can lengthen telomeres, which are the caps on the end of our DNA strands that protect the chromosomes and allow for like continual cell replication. So the longer a telomere, the more times a cell can divide and refresh in a healthy way. So if your telomeres, if you can actually get longer, it literally is like extending your health and your lifespan,
Wow.
which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And it also does things like it can help with heart rate variability, which which is what we need for our ability for our cardiovascular system to adapt, which is going to be healthy for us. It can lower blood pressure. It can give us greater states of flow, right? The creativity that most of us want if we're high performers or creative people. And it helps you become aware of your own patterning and conditioning. And I think most importantly of all, it is like the key to unlocking bad habits because it increases that time between trigger and response. And that's what we needed if we're going to really be like sort of in control, in quotation marks, of our lives.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's kind of what I was thinking as I was listening to you, that we do tend to just react to so many things. And it takes something, and there are lots of somethings out there to break the pattern and create new patterns. But we know that pattern creation is difficult when you're trying to break a pattern and create a new pattern, because now you've got to consciously think about not taking that action that is the habit, right?
Yes, it's a vicious circle. And that is one of the reasons that I coach groups that take a few months, because it takes a long time to change a habit and to like really to have that container of a foundation of like, okay, we're doing this. It takes consistency. And I don't think with meditation, it takes like, if someone's interested in starting a practice, it's really one of the most common objections. Can you guess when I suggest that people take time every day to meditate, what their most common objection is?
I don't have any time. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Who's got time to meditate?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Sit around and do nothing? Come on
now.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because we consider that wasted time.
Right.
But you've got to consider the source. Who's saying that to you? What's the source of, it's your mind. It's the thing that wants to be in control.
Exactly.
And so you've got to call BS on that. Like you always have 1 minute. I don't care how busy you are. You always have a moment to take a conscious breath. And so I encourage people to really make it non-negotiable and start small, but make it a sacred commitment to yourself.
Yeah, I think that that's a great way to think about it. And as we continue to commit to and function as independent professionals, commit to that level of independence and creating that self-employment, that we dream of. Self-care, you talked before in your previous episode, self-care is not selfish, right? Which I love that quote. And I think the more you want to achieve, I think there's almost this, the sharpening of the saw thing from Lincoln, that the more you want to achieve, almost the more important it is that you allow for healthy habits of healthy eating, plenty of sleep and rest, and then this extra mindfulness bit, so that you can really give your full energy when you need to give your full energy, and you truly are continuously recharged almost, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. What you just said it's what allows you, it can be a source of energy, especially, one thing that I always recommend to people as well is to do a bit of breathing before you sit down and meditate. That if you do some conscious breathing practices, especially, the yoga tradition is full of them, and as is the Qigong tradition, abdominal breathing, alternate nostril breathing, Kapalabhati breathing, or skull shining breath, like that are designed to like kind of open our internal pathways so that we can have access to what's inside, so that, basically kind of clearing off the cobwebs internally so that we can connect, that can open us up to that can be very energizing in and of itself, for one. The other thing is you're not going to waste as much time, right? That idea of like measure twice, cut once, or like to take
Right.
time to like set up, to aim your arrow before you shoot, like if you can take a few minutes to meditate and then get clear on what matters most in a given day or in a given moment, you're going to be a lot less scattered, and you're going to remind yourself that you always can come back to the present moment, which is going to keep you from galloping off into the future or worrying about what happens, like that you still need to take care of. It's training you out of reactivity.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating as I look into it more and more. And so those of us who are, as friends tell me regularly, you're very linear. Those of us who are very linear but who also have this creative side, can really struggle with this. And I think the key for me was the more creative people that I respect, that I learned that this is something they value and consider, as you've said, an important part of just their daily practices of being human, that this is something that they don't negotiate on. This is part of their regular day, and that they schedule around it, or they make sure that they fit it in anywhere. Because it's called like walking. It's like all you need is your shoes and your feet. And with meditation, it's the same kind of thing, right? It's not like you wear some special outfit.
No equipment required.
Yeah, exactly. So can you talk then about guided meditation? What is that? And is that a good way to get started with meditation?
Yeah, I think it has its place. I don't know that I would put guided meditation. Guided meditation is a way of helping is using somebody guiding you through. This is what you're doing with your attention. This is where you're putting your awareness. Okay, relax this. Okay, now imagine this. Okay, that,
Right.
and basically it's like the paint by numbers. Like it's totally it has a wonderful effect in terms of helping you, the training wheels. It helps you to do it. Eventually, you probably won't need the training wheels anymore. Like that, being able to let go of that and being able to get curious about what's going on in your own subtle body, in your own like what your own consciousness is witnessing. It's just a slightly different thing, and I think that, as that one of the things we do in Qigong is we can often like be thinking about how we're moving energy through the body or how we're unblocking pathways and things like that. And again, I think that can be very therapeutic, and it can be one of the ways that we can actually heal ourselves. It can be an amazing practice. But it's still, you're using your mind effortfully to do something. And so I would say that, like, really, that practice, like training a puppy, right? The mind is going to wander away, and it's your job to lovingly guide it back. And so it's like having somebody else, like having a little gong in the background, or having somebody say, like, if you've wandered off, come on back now. It's like sometimes that can be wonderful and really useful. And I think ultimately it's just like you taking control of the reins, and or the leash in this case, and guiding your mind back to the practice is something that I think is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a guided meditation, but I think that you could potentially get a different sort of thing out of your practice if you practice solely with yourself.
Yeah, I like the explanation that think of it as training wheels, because I decided, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And so, of course, I'm like, well, where's the handbook? Where's the, what am I supposed to do? And I had gone on to YouTube one day, and there on, that landing page are all those suggested videos. And one of them was a Jack Canfield guided meditation, where first he explains about, a little bit about, like you just did in a very simplified way, what meditation is, and then, okay, I'm going to take you through doing this, and he talks you through it, and it's not complicated, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a very simple kind of thing to do, and I really only had to listen to it or watch it twice because it was so simple, center yourself, breathe, and that sort of thing. And then I was able to follow his path of, all right, now, feel this,
Mm-hmm.
imagine this,
Mm-hmm.
have it go around your body, and you can
Yep.
really then, in that kind of simple way, get started. So that was really what I was thinking of.
Great. Yeah, it's awesome. It's
And
a great way to get started.
I'll include a link to that in the show notes as well. So one of the things that really put me off of meditation at first was like, well, what am I going to do with stuff pops into my head all the time, right? Which I know
Yeah.
is the whole point. So I bought a CD,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. This was a couple of years ago. And so I was listening to, it was Dr. Wayne Dyer, God bless him. And it was just too complicated. It was like, now, you want to it was called Minding the Gap or Getting in the Gap or something. And it was like, so you want to be in the gap between your thought and the space. And I'm like, my God, that's too hard. I can't even think about this. So really what is supposed to happen, correct me if I'm wrong, the thought is going to pop into your head and you don't follow it up with a follow-up thought. That was really what I was thinking of, that if the thought pops in your head, you just go, goodbye. And just don't continue.
Yes. Yeah. I think at its essence, absolutely. Like your heart isn't going to stop beating. Your mind is not going to stop generating thoughts. Like that's just what it does. And so rather than get mad at yourself or think that you're the world's worst meditator or that you're somehow special because your mind is so active, it's like, no. Sorry, but you're part of the human race. Like that's just how it works. And so recognizing that, okay, yes, my mind is, and of course the speed at which your mind is wild versus slow, it tells you a bit about the pace of your life and how much space or lack thereof may be present. I think that's actually a really useful thing to use your meditation practice for, is to figure out what needs to change off the mat, off the cushion. But the fact that, so if a thought pops into your head, the idea is you can notice it, and sometimes like the technique is to label it thinking, or to label it worrying, or to label it, planning, or whatever it is. Like you can throw a little, oh yeah, there that is again, and then refocus, right? You bring your focus back to whatever it is you're focusing on, or into kind of that direct experience of the now that is, without any particular aim.
Okay. All right. Wow. All right. So
yeah. Actually, as we're talking, like I'm entering in yet another certification program in another different kind of meditation, because there are so many different kinds and I'm curious about them all. And I'm curious about just what different practices feel like. And so it's always like, and I always think like, yes, it's important to dig that well and to dig it consistently. And to mix my metaphors here, you want to water the ground of your meditation practice until it bears fruit. So it's going to take a little time. You don't plant the seed and then go like, where's the apple tree? It's like there's you do actually need to give it some time to germinate before you necessarily can feel like you're getting water from your practice. And so just as you wouldn't like go to the gym for the first time ever, pick up 100-pound barbell and be like, what's this stuff, this isn't for me, like that you wouldn't have the same expectations of yourself. So being able to, and I actually wanted to circle back to something you said earlier about it being hard, like that. And so, and yes, so what we know about willpower is that it wanes throughout the day. And so a really great idea is to do your meditation practice in the morning, like as close to when you get up as possible, because it is hard. But the thing is that if you start your day from a place of centered presence, or at least at the very least connect with yourself before you connect with your phone or the world or email, like you're going to be so much more efficient. You are going to have far less on your mind before you've opened your inbox than giving the world permission to knock you off of your intention. So if this is a really like a little seedling of a habit that you're trying to nurture, it's going to be really important to do it early, and to do it really just before you engage with your workday. Of course, you can take a break at any point and meditate like any time that happens to work for you, but I highly, highly recommend early, just in terms of the people that I've worked with over the years in bringing a practice online and making it stick, that it's super helpful to do it before willpower wanes.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And it's just like so many other things that have been proven that the sooner you can do them during the day, the better. The day doesn't get away with. It's why exercisers morning exercisers have the highest rate of sticking with it. They have the highest
Mm-hmm.
outcomes because I did it. I mean, and you
Yeah.
start your day, not only are you energized from endorphins and all of that, but you've just achieved something that most of the population won't. So
Yes,
that in
exactly.
itself is a great motivator and a great way to start the day powerfully by having that morning exercise practice as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of all of this self-care stuff as part of, it's almost like the foundation of courage, because
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about in your first episode, which of course I'll include a link to in the show notes
Yeah.
for this one, is that taking care of yourself is a courageous act when you're in a world moving a million miles an hour and that is saying, no, don't do that, do this.
Oh
So
yeah,
you stand
it's
up for
so
yourself now.
courageous, and I don't know if there's just this week I wrote the taking, what was it? It's a manifesto on taking care of yourself, the right to take care of yourself manifesto.
Awesome.
And so I can make that link available. And then I don't know if I mentioned this in the last interview or not, but that one of my participants in the last round of my coaching program just came up with this brilliant declaration: mornings are mine. And I love
That's
it
awesome.
because it's like all of those things that the yogis and sages from the Taoists to the Buddhists to the Vedic, everybody, like everybody in the East is like, do all these things in the morning, like
Yeah.
exercise, meditate, hydrate, that connect with your higher purpose, figure out, like align with your values, and then go live, like that's some really ancient wisdom from it, and that we can all, I think, benefit from. And so, yeah, it does require a longer morning routine, and that might require getting to bed a little earlier. But really, if mornings are yours with all of these things, it's like, it's so foundational in being able to give us the yin that enables the yang of life.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know that, when I was at peak condition, and most of the time during the week I worked out in the morning. I
Mm-hmm.
had the classes, specific classes that I like to take that were only in the evening, and I would alter my behavior for them. But sometimes I didn't get there, but I never missed my morning workout because it's my morning workout. I mean, it was just,
Exactly.
so it was like breathing to me. It was that
Yes.
required and that sort of thing. So let's talk about what's a good way to get started, since there's so much to learn about this. We don't want people to go, oh, I can't do it, it's too hard. So
Right.
what do you think would be a good way to get started?
Well, I think the first thing to do, like what we know about habit change, right, is that there are major triggers for doing a new habit. So the first thing I would suggest is to take right now, when you have high motivation, is a time to make a structural change in your environment that will allow you to follow through. So I would say go pick a place. Like I use my closet, I have my little, and find like, where are you going to do this and when are you going to do this? Make space for it in your life. Pre-decide that it's going to happen. If it's not going to happen first, like for me, it's like, it doesn't need to be on my calendar because I've been doing it for 20 years. But if it's not automated to that point yet, put it on your calendar, or set an alarm, cue your habit somehow, or it comes right after teeth brushing and right before showering, or it comes,
Right.
Figure out like, where does it stack in your routine of things that you are already doing without fail. So then it will be more likely to happen. And you can reward yourself. I would say keep track of your progress. Like decide that you're going to commit to make it small, make it digestible and bite size. Like I would say try 1 minute. Try 1 minute for a week,
Right.
like build on your success, then make it 5 minutes, like that. And don't go up too fast, like make it really comfortable and set a timer. I'm a big fan of timers because, especially with meditation, the
Yep.
mind is the thing that you're trying to gain a bit of sovereignty over. I'm not going to say control. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And so the idea that, like, whether or not you're having a blissful, peaceful experience or a crazy wrestling with every thought that comes by sort of experience, you're on your cushion for 5 minutes. period. That's it. Like good or bad, for win or lose, you're not going to judge yourself, because it doesn't matter how any given day's worth of meditation went. It's just doing it. It's just that laying down the groundwork for that practice. And I would start, but I actually do suggest that people who haven't meditated before pick something to focus on, because otherwise it can just be like, I think that the direct perception, direct awareness of the present moment, all it is in reality, it's like that can be, I think, a more advanced practice. And so I would say start with something simple. The breath is an excellent time-tested tool, and it can be as simple like Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching of like just simply like breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in, breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out, like, or you can add intentionality
Which is also
to
calming,
that.
right? I mean,
Absolutely.
we know that breath control is part of stress reduction, and
yes,
so yes,
all of that. Yeah, and you can even, if you want to throw a little twist on that, you can breathe in an intention, right? I'm breathing in inspiration, I'm breathing in peace, I'm breathing out what I don't need anymore. Like the breath allows us to be part of this taking in and letting go flow. If you are somebody who likes to move while meditating, if you're somebody that really can't sit still, and that's actually agitating, as it can be for some people with anxiety, then I have the world's simplest Qigong on my website, which you can download for free. And that's literally like that: inhaling, the arms come up overhead; exhaling, the arms come down in front of the body, guiding the energy down to the low abdomen. And it's really that intention, like my feet are on the earth, my crown of my head is open to the heavens. I'm gathering energy from the environment. I'm smoothing it down, and just doing that, like do that for 5 minutes, like it's so easy, and you will feel tremendously different, especially just allowing yourself to focus on the breath. And the breath will naturally smooth out. It will naturally deepen. You'll naturally be letting go of stress. So it's the kind of thing where, like, I almost think that if there's movement involved, it's easier to see those benefits early on. So if you need that kind of like quick, like, oh, this is actually working for me, like results, then you might explore a moving practice as opposed to a seated practice. I don't think one is better than the other necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that this whole concept, there's so many directions to go in based on that. This whole concept of there being these different styles, if you will.
Yeah.
At first, it might seem like, well, that's too stinking hard. How am I supposed to pick? But taking it back to something we know, physical fitness. Right?
Yes.
Oh my God. Ask 10 people how to get fit. You'll get 10 different opinions, and then they'll throw in some other stuff they heard worked for other people.
Yes.
So the point is, what works to get you fit, the stuff you'll do. That's
exactly.
So
and what's juicy. Yeah, because it's like that. I think that's really important to pay attention to, that like if you're not getting out of your practice, like if you've been practicing for a few months, good faith effort, and you're not motivated to do it, you can consider like what's going on there, because there's so many that like, but again, it's like, it's not like, you're not going to decide, well, exercise just isn't for me because I don't like skiing. It's like, well, maybe you like swimming, or maybe you like bicycling, or, that there's so many different strategies, as you put it. So there's, I would say like give it a fair shake, and allow it to be something that like where you check in with yourself periodically.
Yeah. I think the other powerful piece of all of this is something I've been kicking around, other than, in addition to habit formation and habit change, is this general idea about goal achievement, goal attainment, objectives, and then this concept of intention.
Yeah.
And I've been really thinking about them a lot, because I came to the shocking realization, I'm not in control of the universe.
Really?
I know that.
I thought it was you the whole time.
No.
I've been blaming you for No, I'm kidding.
Sorry. I'm not only am I not in control of the universe, I'm barely in control of myself. And so the more realization that, okay, I can set this intention. I do have a general objective. This is my goal, but theoretically, since I don't run the universe, I have to be open. I was talking to a client this morning, and we were setting fourth quarter goals. What are we gonna shoot for? What's your intention? And so I said, well, you've got this goal, but is it perhaps too rigid?
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, what if God decided you were winning the lottery?
Exactly. Right.
But
Yeah.
no, I have to have it this way.
Yeah.
So it's this thing that just it does come with practice, and you start developing this comfort with setting that intention.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal I would like, would be
Mm-hmm.
to have this kind of money, and I would like it to come this way, but I'm okay if it comes this way.
Yeah,
Right.
and just to jump onto that thought for a moment, I think it can be really useful to actually contradict what I just said a second ago, which is that if you take an attitude towards your meditation practice, like I'm going to open this box of gifts. I don't know what I'm going to find, but I'm just going to do it,
Right.
because it's the kind of thing where like because really it would not be in every major world religion, spiritual tradition, and used by the top performers across all industries right now if there wasn't something in it for you. But a lot of times if we go into it, there's this quid pro quo attitude, like I'm going to sit for 10 minutes a day and damn it, I'm going to have like this result. It's like, I don't know that it works that way. And especially with this idea of grace, right? Like that there's no accounting for the realizations, the enlightenment experiences, the access to our higher self or to divine guidance, or however you want to put it, that you can't force. But what you can do is create a space for it, right? Like
Right.
that it's one of those things where where that phrase like enlightenment is an accident, and meditation makes you accident prone. Like that it's that you're allowing, if you never allow the space, if your life is always so full of you that you never get out of the way, like, good luck receiving any guidance. You've got to empty your cup in order to have it filled. And
Right.
so if you are looking to meditation for answers to questions, like that's another way to approach it, is to sit there with a question and just hang out, like, or to abide with a question during the day, but leave meditation to be a time where you're listening, where, you've got your internal faculties of a receptivity attitude on that, that could be your intention, but you can't force it. It's like doing a rain dance. You're encouraging, you're like, okay, like we'd really like this rain to happen, like, but we're not the rainmaker, right? We're not the one that doing it. It's we're creating a space to allow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I could go on for hours with you. Thank you so much, but everybody
You're
listening will
welcome.
be happy that I'm not. So let's talk about that. You mentioned that you have something on your site that's free to download that can help folks. So why don't you tell folks a little bit about what it is that you do? We
Sure.
did have that first episode, but we'll fill them in.
Yeah.
And then how can they learn more and get started on this?
Sure. Well, they can head to brodiewelch.com, Brodie with an I-E, Welch with a C-H. And what I do, so my background is Chinese medicine, and so acupuncture, Chinese herbs, lifestyle and diet, teaching people how to take care of themselves. And it's since evolved into coaching people on the core competencies of self-care and dialing in those core habits that everybody needs in order to be healthy and thriving. And so if you're interested in a little structure, support, and accountability for doing things like exercising and meditating, and want to do that with an eye towards how did the sages of Chinese medicine and the ancient yogis do it, that's what my program is rooted in. And so you get a little insight as to the energetics of life, the yin and the yang of life, the elements of life, and what we could be doing to bring ourselves into balance. That's the kind of thing that you get, along with, I seem to attract high achieving women who have difficulty putting themselves on their own to-do list. So if you need help recognizing that you have the right to take care of yourself, you can go to brodiewelch.com. There will be many options to download the manifesto. You can also download a free breathing break, which is an audio meditation that I recorded to give people a place to start about abdominal breathing and starting that relaxation process.
Great.
Breathing has sort of been done to death. It's like everybody's got that, but not everybody has the world's simplest Qigong, which I call balancing yin and yang, which is this thing that I just led people through earlier. So if that's interesting to you, you can head on over and grab that. I have a lot of interesting resources on my site. And if you're interested in working with me, I also have a podcast called The Healthy Curiosity. And the coaching program is called 11 Weeks to Level Up Your Life. And so it's like, it's a 3-month container long enough to bring new habits into automation so that you can focus on what really matters to you. And that runs a few times a year.
Awesome. Awesome. And we'll have links to all of that as well. And
Great.
Brodie, thanks again. I just so appreciate your time.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I love talking about this stuff because it really is one of the most important things that people can do to take care of themselves. And that is my mission in life. So thank you.
All right. Well, I hope you found that helpful. Now, if you like this episode, I hope you'll share it with those in your networks and communities and leave a positive review on the platform where you're enjoying this. And you can become a fan of the show, remember, at winnieanderson.com/fans. When you do, you'll receive episodes emailed to you, and you'll receive information, tips, and resources to help you break free from self-doubt, fears, and disempowering patterns, as well as strategies to help you profit from your expertise by positioning and pre-selling yourself as the unique solution provider you are. All right, so your cocktail exercise. That's what I call a reflection exercise. Picture yourself with your feet up, resting someplace fabulous with an appropriate beverage as you think. Of course, alcohol isn't necessary, and don't drink and drive. Okay, so your cocktail exercise. I want you to think about how hard you work and how crazy busy your life is and the things we know now about stress and its impact on health and functioning. I don't know about you, but I'm often more productive when I do less. Crazy. I'm more productive when I take good care of myself and when I'm laser focused on the most important and impactful activities. So think about, do you schedule your daily life so you're cultivating wellness, calm, and creativity? Could meditation work for you? And if you're a person of faith, does meditation fit with that foundation? Personally, I think it does. In Psalm 119, it says, "Oh, how I love your law. I meditate on it all day long." Remember, Brodie talked about making yourself open to answers. Well, that's sort of what I see meditation as. It's an extension of my prayer life and a deeper way to open myself to direction and answers. So here's how I do it. After morning prayer, I reflect on the scripture readings. And to do that, I'm starting to close my eyes, focus on my breathing, and then I ask for wisdom on what I read. How does, what I read apply to me, my life, my work? What message should I be sharing that's related to that reading? And I ask for wisdom for the day and blessing for my work for that day. So to me, that's meditation. That's my meditation. The other piece to meditation for me is self-awareness. I think it can help in reflecting and becoming tuned into, what you're doing that's working and not working for you. The key to moving forward in life and in business is tuning into what we do that holds us back, right? That's part of creating a new life for ourselves is tuning into what's working, what's not working, and where's that gap between what we want and what we have. So what can we do to move forward with courage, confidence, clarity, and consistency? All right, so your action step. I want you to schedule time in every day for reflection and quieting your mind to be open to the answers to your questions. And I also want you to ask bigger and better questions as you do this, because this is something I've been working on too. So, for example, why don't I have more clients is not a big question. It sounds like a big one, but it's not. It actually is whiny and self-centered. So it's not a powerful, abundant, focused question. So I would ask, in my opinion, a better question, a better version of that question would be, how can I get my message out in a bigger way so it reaches those who need it? I think that's a better question because it's other focused. There's also a element in scripture where that says, we don't get because we don't ask. And then there's also that we ask, our asking isn't good. And I think the problem with our asking is often we're asking for things that are self-centered. They're not focused on serving. So that's what I'm starting to ask a lot of questions about. How can I serve better? How can I be more impactful? and then open myself up to the answer, because the answer isn't going to come through harder work, and it's going to come through that inspiration that comes from the divine, comes from the Lord. So think about that, and as you experiment with styles of meditation, be sure to take into consideration its alignment with your faith beliefs. Whatever those beliefs may be, you want to make sure that you are always acting in alignment with your faith. Another action you can take to begin to strengthen your awareness is join a community of like-minded peers who can help you stay accountable to yourself and focused on your most important activities and goals. You can learn more about the Action Taker group that I run by visiting winnieanderson.com/action. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll be back with another episode of The Courageous Entrepreneur soon. And until then, remember, you're worthy of all the success you dream of.